Rise from your grave. Power up. Welcome to your doom.
She's got it. It's under the neck.
There it is.
Nope, it's on the chin.
There's the tap. Still undisputed. Khabib Nurmagomedov has finished Conor McGregor tonight.
This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and today we'll be going over UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor 3, giving you our thoughts, predictions, typical same old, same old. Personally, I'm probably not touching this card. It's really close, in my opinion, the entire card up and down. I've been having trouble really picking out who I really think is going to win, except for one fight, which is the Sean O'Malley fight, which is, we'll get to it. But hopefully you liked the intro. I spent a good 3 days cropping and editing that fucking thing, trying to get McGregor's face to follow the whatever. I'm not a very good video editor, but let us know what you think in the comments below. But let's get started with the first fight of the night at middleweight between these two bums, Alan Amedovski and Yaozong Hu. And frankly, I didn't even realize these two guys were in the roster. Both of these guys haven't fought in about 2 years. For example, Yaozong Hu, he's currently a plus 140 underdog. The comeback on Amedovski minus 175. I got nothing on these two guys. I'm going with Amedovski just because he fought sooner. And frankly, for Yaozong Hu, he lost to Rashad Coulter and Cyril Asker, two guys who could not get a win in the UFC. Well, I guess, they beat Yaozong Hu, so I guess they did get a win. But losing to those two guys is not a good look. I'm going with Alan Amedovski, even though he's the only guy to get knocked out by John Phillips in the UFC. At least I think so. I don't want to do the research on these two guys, but let me know what you would think on this one, because I don't care about this one. What do you think about this one?
I'm actually going with Amedovski as well, but my reasoning is I think the stubble on the Amedovski is going to hurt Hu's hand when he grazes up against it, and I think it's going to cut his forearm, and he's going to be, he's going to be unable to continue. I think it might shatter his forearm. Actually,
so
yes, I'm calling
Amedovski TKO then.
Yeah, I would say Amedovski TKO by stubble to the forearm, because Yaozong, I'm thinking Totoro translates to soft, where he comes from. And yeah, I mean, being 6'3", in the UFC, you got to have a little, bit. That has to translate to some sort of advantage in the octagon. But for this guy, I don't think it will. I think he'll be 3-3. I think he's going to get cut after this. As much as the UFC would like to have a light heavyweight Chinese fighter that they can push, in the male division, unfortunately, he's not. He's no Weili. He's no killer. Unfortunately, he's 26. He's 6'3". He's got all. Wait, what? Oh my God, these guys are fighting at middleweight. You know what? Yeah, Amedovski's going to kill him. And Amedovski's not a killer. He's more like the equivalent of a pet groomer, in the UFC.
Well, if you squint hard enough, he kind of looks like McGregor. Or is it just me?
No, he looks more like, if I squint, he's like a middleweight Eddie Alvarez, sort of.
I get McGregor eyes when I see him, so I'm going to go. I'm going to go Amedovski straight left knockout.
Okay. Well, I'll take him by decision. I don't know if he has that knockout power, because I'm seeing Eddie Alvarez, and Eddie Alvarez, we've all seen what happened to him post UFC. Him and Pettis, man, what the hell? That's a whole other conversation. But you know what? He is part of. Wow, these guys are part of some really heavy hitting gyms. Look like he's Amedovski's part of American Top Team Rome. So they really bring the spaghetti to work. That's a horrible joke. But Tiger Muay Thai, damn. Yeah, Yao Zong should be. Yeah, this guy should not be 3-2. I mean, being 8-2, I guess, is a little bit better than being 3-2. But yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, it's too much time on this one. Who cares? Let's move to something slightly better. We've got at flyweight a bout between Zhalgas Zhumagulov and the renegade Jerome Rivera. Basically, a loser leaves town match. Both of these guys are on losing streaks. Very disappointed in Zhalgas because when he came into the UFC after he lost to Julian Paiva, I'm like, well, maybe this guy's going to actually show why he was, one of the better guys at that weight class coming out of Kazakhstan, but he's got 2 losses in a row. His last loss was to Amir Albazi. And for Jerome Rivera, man, he has not looked good in the UFC whatsoever. He looked decent enough in the Contender Series, but the moment he came in, you can give him some slack. He got knocked out by Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam's going to do that to you. If you, if you don't really mind your P's and Q's, he'll catch you. Then you lost to Francisco Figueiredo. Really bad sign because Francisco really didn't do much to win that fight, and Jerome definitely didn't do much to even put up a fight. Then he got knocked out by Ode Osborne. Currently, the odds are minus 375 for Zhalgas. The comeback on Jerome Rivera is the plus 290. I'm going to go with the underdog Jerome Rivera. I think this is a lot closer than what people are valuing it at, mainly because we've got the younger guy with the longer reach. He's a 72.5-inch reach for Jerome Rivera. Zhalgas, although he has the experience advantage, I think he is, quite frankly, the better fighter. He has yet to perform for him to be minus 375. I'm taking a shot on the dog, although I'm not confident in it, but it's worth a shot at nearly plus 300. I'll go with Jerome Rivera to get his first UFC win by a decision. I think he'll stay on the outside, use his reach and his height advantage, and hopefully win this fight because I see some glimpses of, I don't want to say greatness from the kid, but glimpses of a, decent enough fighter, but he just does not know how to use his attributes. So if he can do that now, this would be the perfect time. Plus 290 on Jerome Rivera. I'm taking a shot.
Yeah, I think that's where the value is here. Minus 375 is way too big of a line for Zhalgas.
What did you call Zhalgas before?
No, I can't say it here. You're right. Spanish, but anybody speaks Spanish here. You're right. Zhalgas with, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to rhyme it. It's the Spanish word for butt cheeks. So I'll say
you
that.
Said butt cheeks, but you can't say nalgas.
Yeah. It's too taboo, man. It's too taboo. Yeah, minus 375 is way too high a line for Zhalgas. Jerome, neither. This is just as bad a matchup as that, first fight, I think. But the value alone, I think at plus 300, it's worth a shot. I would maybe include that in super long shot 10-cent parlay. If you want to do an entire card or $1 parlay or whatever. But yeah, this is not any spot on this card to lay your money on either guy. The risk is too high for either, I think. So I'd stay away from this one. But if I had to pick, just like I said, based on the value alone for the odds, I'd say go with Rivera. And even, I don't know, go with Rivera by finish or something, sweeten the pot a little bit, add to that, it'll make it like plus 350 or plus 400 or something. Rivera by submission or something. It could happen. Never know.
And what's your official pick?
Rivera. And I'll say, I'll take him by decision, but at those odds, you might as well, if you're going for it, then really go for it. Go with Rivera by submission or something.
I don't remember if I picked, but yeah, Rivera by decision. I wasn't sure if I was specified. But let's move on to the next bout at middleweight. A really good fight between the Wolverine, Omari Ahkmedov, and Brad Tavares, who they called the Hawaiian Bisping. I think I forgot who said that. Remind me in the comments if you remember who said that. But currently the odds are minus 170 for Tavares, plus 140 for Ahkmedov. Interesting that Brad Tavares is the favorite. I mean, he did look good against Antonio Carlos Jr. His last fight, takedown defense really held up, but that was against Antonio Carlos Jr. Ahkmedov, we kind of know what he brings to the table. He's very aggressive. He has a very good right hand, very, very good wrestling. But his chink in the armor is that his gas tank, because he slows down. And if you're fighting a certain level of competition, for example, like a Chris Weidman, say what you want about Chris, he is still a high-level athlete, former champion, and it's not a horrible look on Ahkmedov's record, although I think most of us know what's really up. Chris Weidman's like not the same fighter, but he's still I guess he still has that spark in him. So it's not the worst look. And he beat the crap out of Tom Breeze. He got him in the submission, the arm triangle. So he's not a terrible fighter. Don't put too much stock on that Chris Weidman loss on Ahkmedov. As for Brad Tavares, it's the same thing. A lot of people were counting him out against Antonio Carlos Jr. because of that knockout from Edmund Shabazian. So again, this is a very close fight. What were you saying?
No, I said I was.
But you were kind of, I think a lot of people were, man. A lot of people were really counting Brad Tavares out. I think if I remember, I picked him to win, so he pulled out. He didn't pull out of the fight. He pulled it out. But no, for this one's tough. This might be for me another pick where I'm picking the underdog, a dog or pass. Brad Tavares, although his takedown defense looked good, his striking looked good against Antonio Carlos Jr. Omari Ahkmedov is a different beast. He's a Wolverine. He'll continue going for takedowns. My problem is if he gasses out, it's going to be a problem. Brad Tavares will not gas out, and he'll put it on you in the third round. He's got pretty good volume. I will go with Omari Ahkmedov to win this one by a decision. I think he'll take the first two rounds, and then the third round is going to be super hairy. If Omari Ahkmedov has worked on his conditioning, which, to be frank, I don't think he has, I think he still pulls it off, though. But if he did work on his conditioning, it might be easy pickings for him. He'll take down, rinse, repeat, possibly even get a submission on there. But I will go with Ahkmedov to win by a decision.
Yeah, as will I. I mean, I think Ahkmedov's weakness is a guy with better conditioning and some wrestling. But a guy with better conditioning, is just going to try to piece him up on the feet. I think his wrestling is enough to counteract that. And I think he's just going to put on a wrestling clinic in the first two rounds, as you mentioned, with Tavares. I mean, it's going to go, I foresee this going one of two ways. Ahkmedov out wrestling Tavares for the first and second round, getting tired in the third round and getting, lit up a little bit. Or the reverse, which is getting lit up a little bit in the first round, not really being able to take Tavares down because of his cardio. But then in the second round, Tavares' cardio gives in a little bit. And then that's when Ahkmedov's wrestling clinic starts. And then he gets the second and third round nods to him. And, he gets a 29-28 decision. So I think he's going to get 20-28 decision. And I foresee either of those two scenarios. I don't think he's got enough juice to submit Tavares, nor do I believe he has enough juice to knock him out. So I think he's just going to, I'd say it's not I don't want to say I'm absolutely certain Ahkmedov is going to win. Yes. Could he get, damn it, I just jinxed it. Yes. Could he?
Oh, man.
Head kick, straight punch, whatever. Yes, but I think, yes, Ahkmedov is certainly the Hugh Jackman of Russia. He's earned that Wolverine moniker. But more likely than not, I think he's going to survive any of those onslaughts by Tavares and just get the 29-28 victory.
Yeah, dude, they're very evenly matched. It's not like there's a huge height and reach disadvantage. We didn't mention that. I didn't mention that because I'm an idiot. 6 foot tall for Ahkmedov, 6'1" for Brad Tavares. Tavares has a 1-inch reach advantage at 74, 73 for Ahkmedov. So he's just got the 1-inch height and 1-inch reach. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Like, he's taking at least 2 rounds to get the decision, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and they're, I guess Tavares is aged a little better. I just looked at their age and I'm like, oh, they're about the same age. I guess maybe Ahkmedov has a little rougher life, which is fine. You know what I mean? But I'd say the value here is with Ahkmedov at an underdog, at underdog money. So you're going to get a little bit more value there. So I'd say if you are betting on Ahkmedov, do it sooner rather than later so you can still catch that underdog money, because I think the money's going to come in on Ahkmedov and he's going to be the slight favorite, like maybe 110, 120 by fight night.
Moving on to our next fight at flyweight, we've got a bout between Jennifer Maia and Jessica Evil Eye. The odds currently have it at -200 for Maia. Comeback on Eye is +160. So both of these ladies fought the champion Valentina, and one of these ladies was essentially sent to the hospital. The other one was not, and that was Jessica Eye. So this one, it's going to sound weird, but I had quite the trouble making a decision on this one. And currently on my Tapology, I have something written down, and I'm like, why did I do that? I actually picked Eye in the first time I thought about it, just kind of going through it really quickly at work. I'm like, maybe Eye edges this one out. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, there's a possibility that Eye can pull this out because she has the better striking. And she's how can I put it? She's very good at winning in certain situations like this. Like, she can pull out a couple rounds and get a split decision or a decision win. But as of late, though, for 34 years old, her last 2 fights with 2 girls who have, I guess, overall better game than she does. For example, her last 2 fights were against Cynthia Calvillo, where she couldn't take her down and she couldn't control her, and she lost essentially by having her back taken. It really negated her overall plan. Jessica Eye is a type of fighter that her striking is not the best, and when it's not, she'll go to the takedowns. And for example, with her fight with Joanne Calderwood, if her striking is not definitely not the best, she'll go for takedowns. But if the girl has better takedown defense, she's pretty much screwed. So in the fight with Calvillo, I would say her striking was better, but her takedown defense was not. And we'll see what happens with Maia, but I think Maia should be the rightful favorite. -200 laying money on her is not the case, because this is probably going to a decision. And I will say this, with all these fights, because it's going to happen in a live crowd, I will say that the striker probably gets the nod in most of these, because you hear the oohs and the ahs from the crowd, and that might sway the judges, because you see a punch land and maybe the head goes back a little bit. They might count that a bit more impactful than anything. I'm saying this because that's a possibility as well, that the judges get swayed by some bullshit. But the play should be Jennifer Maia. I will say by decision. I think overall her game has improved. She's beaten the better people. She actually beat Joanne Calderwood, the girl who beat Jessica Eye. So by MMA math, Jennifer Maia wins this by decision. I would love to say maybe even a submission, but it's been a while since Jessica Eye has been submitted. Her last finish was, of course, a knockout by Valentina, and I don't see Jennifer Maia having that kind of power. Although she is I would say the stockier, stronger girl, I'll go with Jennifer Maia to win this one by a pretty not close decision, but she might lose 1 round. So I'll go 29-28 by Jennifer Maia.
Yeah, the way I see this fight going is Jessica Eye is going to come out strong in the first round with her patented 1-2 and possibly 1-2-3, maybe adding a 1-2-3-4 as she normally does. But she's getting up there in age. You know, she's 34 in MMA years, which is way past her. Not sure if she ever had a prime, to be honest. She is a taller fighter here, but as you mentioned, Jennifer Maia is stockier. And one thing to note is that, yes, she lost to Valentina, Jennifer Maia. Yes, they both lost. They both lost to Valentina. But Jennifer, when she lost to Valentina, she actually controlled Valentina for a good portion of the fight against the cage. So she has good cage control. She has good awareness. And I wouldn't put a submission past her because she is a little bit shorter, but that just means that she's closer to the ground. And, Jessica Ai doesn't really have all that great. I mean, when she faces a good wrestler, I think, or grappler, I should say, like Jennifer Maia is shown to be, I think she's going to get dominated on the ground because I think Jennifer Maia is just a bigger, stronger version, I would say better version of Cynthia Calvillo. So I'm pretty sure she's going to be able to maybe get her to the ground possibly in the second, third round, and then start to go for submission attempts. I would say her best bet, if she were to get a submission, would maybe be an arm bar. I don't know if she'll be able to get her back and get her in a rear naked, or even a guillotine. That'd be crazy. Or even a crucifix. That would be even crazier. So yes, I will take Jennifer. I foresee Jessica maybe getting the first round because she always comes out strong in the first round. But in the second round, she doesn't really have much more to offer than what opponents see in the first round. She'll get a little bit tired, and then Jennifer will start her ground game domination. So she'll probably get the second, third round. But I believe once she gets her to the ground, she will go for the finish. That's what I like about Jennifer Maia. I think she'll probably face Valentina again at some point. But she's definitely beating Jessica Ai here. I don't know, man. Jessica's moving to 10 losses. I don't know if they're going to keep her around just for, as a punching bag for some of these girls, or as a stepping stool, something, as a step basically as a name, established name on their resumes and whatnot. So I don't know how much longer they're going to keep her around for that reason. But Jennifer Maia is definitely going to take this at least by decision. If not, she's going to definitely go for those ground submissions.
Our next bout at featherweight. This is the one I'm like really looking forward to. But we've got at featherweight Ryan the Wizard Hall versus El Matador Ilia Topuria. Currently, the odds are minus 230 for Topuria. Comeback on Ryan Hall plus 180. And man, there's that mystique of Ryan Hall where, no one wants to fight him, but in reality, he pulls out a lot of fights. So interesting. We've got the undefeated guy, the young up and coming Georgian out of Spain, fighting jiu-jitsu wizard Ryan Hall. And we've seen Ryan Hall do some amazing things in there, right? Like that heel hook he got on BJ Penn, despite it being a BJ Penn in 2020, whatever, 2019, I can't remember when it was. It's still impressive for him to get that on a guy the caliber of a man like BJ Penn. But if you look at his record, Ryan Hall, and although he's undefeated in the UFC, it's really who's afraid of fighting Ryan Hall, especially a top level guy? He beat Artem Lobov to win the Ultimate Fighter. He beat Gray Maynard 4 years ago. And it was, Ryan Hall, we know what he wants to do. He is a jiu-jitsu ace, but he does a lot of karate kicks, the spinning shit. And it's very predictable, but it's so effective for certain guys. Like Gray Maynard had nothing for him. He couldn't do a damn thing. Did the same thing to Darren Elkins. And we saw what he did to BJ Penn. Ilia Topuria, though, firmly, I am on his nuts. I think this guy is fantastic. He comes in the UFC and dominates Yusuf Zalal, made me some money there. Comes in against Damon Jackson, knocks him out in the first round. Zero respect for the guy. This guy is incredibly well-rounded. He's just he's just a just bleed type of fighter in my eyes. This guy has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, power in his hands, and I think he's going to run through Ryan Hall. I think Ryan Hall's had it quite easy in the UFC. He's finally fighting a guy that is not going to, not necessarily not respect him, because I think he does respect the game of Ryan Hall. It's just that he won't see a threat on the feet. He's not going to have any issues going to the ground with Ryan Hall, because despite Ryan Hall having really good jiu-jitsu, you can control him on the ground as Saul Rogers did. Someone that has a really good top game, which Ilia Topuria does, can nullify him, and then he really can't do anything. So either it's going to be Topuria by decision or Topuria by finish. But my official pick will be Topuria by decision. I think he's going to really have to hurt Ryan Hall on the feet or even on the ground with ground and pound to get him out of there. So that's why I'm leaning towards a decision for Topuria, but my pick will be Topuria. If he loses, I'm going to be devastated. So I really like Ilia Topuria. I've got him by decision. Hopefully we get a finish, but I see a decision.
So my brain is seeing this matchup as, for those of you, for those wrestling fans, this is sort of the equivalent of, Batista making a comeback at WrestleMania, 1 or 2 years ago, or whenever he fought Triple H in that 30-minute snooze fest. It's sort of a combination of that, along with his record of, if you look at his record, man, he beat, except I would say his only legit win in his last 5 fights is the true GOAT, Artem Lobov. He beat him in his prime. I'm not sure how the heck that happened, but he beat the GOAT. But as of his last few fights, Gray Maynard, beating him 4 years ago, he was just a shell of himself, as was BJ Penn. As great as BJ Penn is, this is not the BJ Penn that beat the hell out of, Diego Sanchez and all those guys in his prime. You have to take those wins with a grain of salt. And then beating Darren Elkins, okay, sure, he beat him by decision, but this was almost 2 years ago. So he's had his UFC fights have spanned, 5.5 years. So he's had 4 fights in 5.5 years. That's not a lot of activity. And he's been out for almost 2 years since his last fight. Meanwhile, Ilia Topuria, it's been 6 months since his last fight, but he fought, almost I think within a month. And now he's back. And they have similar records. So this is crazy. Not only that, but he's 12 years his senior. Ryan Hall is, that is. So for me, I'm riding the Ilia Topuria wave until it crashes. Just based on that. Not only that, but this guy has so much potential. I mean, I don't even know where this guy's ceiling is. I mean, at 24 years old, his style, his aggressiveness, can't really go against it. Yes, Ryan Hall has a chance to win, but Ilia Topuria is just on his game, man. Unless he's sleeping on Ryan Hall, which I don't believe he is, he's going to show, he's this new generation of not just UFC fighters, but of Georgian fighters, making their mark in the sport. So I'll take Ilia Topuria by decision, but he could I believe he has the skills to either, TKO or knock out Ryan Hall or submit him. So, I'd say sprinkle a little bit on either of those props. It's definitely worth it with Ilia Topuria. This guy is the real deal.
Dude, if he submits Ryan Hall, and actually I might even record myself watching the fight, which is super douchey, but content and all. But if he submits Ryan Hall, oh my God, I'm going to freak out, start doing crotch chops and shit randomly, because something about this guy. I'm like, I guess you could, it's no longer Pride Month. I guess I'm gay for the guy. I just really like his style. Really like this guy. Very fun to watch.
Yeah, he's really good. I would say he's, if you're a wrestling fan, he's the equivalent of when Randy Orton was the legend killer, sort of. When he was out there beating up on Mick Foley and whatnot. That's a bad analogy, but
well, not necessarily. Mick Foley, Ryan Hall, one might say, is the Mick Foley of MMA.
Yeah, I guess that's not too bad. I was thinking more of I was, not to get too far into it, but I was watching the Randy Savage and Ultimate Warrior biographies on A&E this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And, they showed, I guess somewhere I recognized Val Venus in there. I was like, hey, what happened to that guy? That guy was really cool. Anyway, just a shout out to Val Venus. I saw him on one of those biographies. But really sad, but really cool at the same time, to watch, and see how, they weren't just playing characters. They really were that insane. So what you were watching was real life. It wasn't, they weren't playing any games, because it's as real as it gets. And to quote, one of the Diaz guys.
Our next matchup at middleweight, really close fight, in my opinion. This one I've also had troubles with. Actually, even the odds are near even. Trevin the problem Giles versus Dricus du Plessis still knocks. I don't know what that means, but currently the odds are -115 for Trevin Giles. The comeback on Dricus du Plessis is -105. And this one's interesting because I really wasn't sure which route to go, because part of me, I don't know if I have something against Trevin Giles, but I've picked against him multiple. Oh, I know what it is. The James Krause decision. That's probably why I harbor some ill feelings towards Trevin Giles that's deep rooted that I can't even see. But Trevin Giles is ever improving, I will say. I don't think he's the best fighter. I can see him losing this fight, but he is ever improving, and he has impressed me to the point I'm like, hey, he might actually win this fight, instead of me automatically picking against him. As for Dricus du Plessis, very interesting spot for him as well, because what I saw from his fight with Marcus Perez, he did not look good whatsoever. And Marcus Perez was essentially beating his ass, at least comfortably winning the fight, until he did something stupid. Some might say he did something very Maluco of him, and he got caught with the left hook and he got knocked out and face planted. So we know that Dricus du Plessis has some pretty decent power. A lot of his wins come from knockouts, except that, he did not really impress me in that fight. And I will say this, another thing to bring up, in that fight, he looked very shook, very, the UFC jitters really affected him. And that was with no crowd. He will have a crowd here. And if there is a possibility that he has some sort of performance anxiety, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying this is a possibility based on how I saw him fight the last time. That might be a problem. And that problem is Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles has a really nice jab. He's really fast. He's, again, ever improving everywhere. His last fight was against Roman Dolidze. Personally, I thought he lost that one, but I can definitely see how the judges gave it to him. He did do more damage even when he was in a heel hook. So those types of spots, man, I'm not too sold on Trevin Giles. If the line changes a bit and more money comes in on Dricus, I might take a shot on Trevin Giles to win by knockout. I think he might catch Dricus du Plessis and then put him out. He's been knocked out before. We'll see, because Dricus, he's a pretty good fighter. It's just that, if he doesn't perform, it's a waste of money, because you can put money down on the better fighter each and every night, but if he comes out there and he looks like he's terrified to fight, if he, for example, Tom Breeze, put all the money on the world on Tom Breeze to beat KB Bular, but if he doesn't show up and he's not mentally there, we can see KB Bular get a decision. So tentatively right now going with Trevin Giles to win. I'm going to say second round knockout. I think he will be the faster guy. But again, a lot of these fights I'm not 100% on. Quite frankly, I might not even bet on any of these fights, because I just want to enjoy a McGregor card. But I'll go with Trevin Giles. Let me know what you guys think on this one, because this is probably one of the closer fights on paper and, of course, on the money line. So what are your thoughts, Jose?
This one's very close. However, the way I'm looking at it is they have similar records. However, I think Trevin Giles has fought the better competition. Win or lose, I think Trevin Giles just has more experience at this point. they're all their attributes are very close. They're close in age, obviously weight, height, and reach. So I don't think one guy has an advantage there. So I think the advantage comes in the form of experience for Trevin Giles. So he has a lot more experience in the UFC. He has a lot more experience with high-level competition, as I mentioned. So even his losses, I'm pretty sure he's learned from that. So the odds here, I find quite odd that they're so close. But from a betting standpoint, to me, that just means that there's value. There's a lot of value in Trevin Giles. The odds being so close, because here I would, if I were an odds maker, I'd make Trevin Giles a minus. In order to prevent a lot of money coming in on Trevin Giles, I would have made him like a minus 300 plus.
Damn.
More than a minus 300 favorite. That in turn prevents a lot of money from coming in, because people are going to be like, well, yes, he is the favorite, but they're going to look at it like, but is he worth all that money? He isn't. But that would be the smart move as an odds maker, but they're leaving the odds this close. So I'd say it's, it's free, almost free money at this point, betting on Trevin Giles. Not to say that Duplessis doesn't belong to UFC. We've yet to see that. But at this point, I think Giles has the experience on his side. So I think he's going to get the decision over Duplessis. And I think Duplessis is going to have success against better competition. But I think he's got to have a few fights under his belt until, we've got to see exactly what he's got. But at this point, I can't go with him. I have to go with Giles.
Our next matchup at welterweight, we've got Nico the Hybrid Price versus Demolidor Michel Pereira. Oh my God, this fight is interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because it's Michel Pereira fighting Nico Price, man. Nico Price is insane. Both of these guys are the best level of crazy. Michel, particularly, we know what he can do. He'll flip around the cage, gas himself out, putting on a show for the fans. And Nico Price, dude, is just ridiculous with his knockouts, man. He gets it from anywhere. He'll knock out James Vick from the bottom with an up kick, knock out Tim Means after losing most of the fight. He's a very fun fighter to watch. This guy, both of these guys are like, again, just bleed type of dudes. The one thing, though, and I'll bring it up after the odds, actually. The odds are currently minus 165 for Michel. Come back on Nico, plus 140. Man, this is a fascinating one. And the reason, because it's like the odds are pretty tempting on Nico Price. I understand why Michel is so favored, but Nico Price, he does have a longer reach. He's got 76 inches compared to 73 for Michel. That's a 3-inch reach advantage. He has power. Michel's been knocked out before. They both have. And this is coming down to, man, Michel has the footwork. He's got the speed. He's got the unorthodox movement. He can do it all, really. My biggest concern of putting money on Michel, and this is why I'm always super concerned, and I have yet to really put money down on him officially, because think about it. Like, if you're putting money down on Michel, other than his UFC debut, where he would have been an underdog coming in here on short notice, you would have made some money. Then you bet money on him again against Tristan Connolly. You're like, oh, easy money. He's fighting a fucking featherweight at welterweight. Then he does what he does, and you're like, holy shit. And it puts a sour taste in your mouth, beating the crap out of Diego Sanchez. But on the record books, Diego Sanchez won that fight because illegal knee. And then Zalim Imadaev. Okay, cool. Like, we're seeing an improved Michel, even though in reality he could have easily won all those fights. It's just that he, went a little heat-hard, if you will. My concern with this one, even though his fight with Chaos Williams, he showed excellent footwork, really played the matador on that one. My concern is we've got a live effing crowd, And if Michel starts feeling himself and he starts doing like, you know what, I'm going to do a fucking backflip, I can see Nico Price catching him with something midair and knocking him out cold. So there is some value in Nico Price, because I get a feeling that the crowd will really get in Michel Pereira's ear and he'll do something really stupid. That's my biggest concern with this matchup. Maybe I'm over analyzing things. Maybe Michel's not going to do anything dumb, but I get a feeling he will. I really do. My pick, I have to go with Michel to win, maybe by, I'm going to say, second round knockout. He'll do something crazy that knocks out Nico Price, but be weary, because if he starts doing some shit out there, jumping off the cage, and he gasses himself out trying to entertain the fans, because he said that before, like, win or lose, I'm out there to entertain the fans. He's okay with losing if he does something fun, but Nico Price is not someone to be slept on. But I'll go with Michel to win. I'll go second round knockout. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this particular matchup and who you're going to pick, because this one is going to be fun. I do not want to put some money down on Michel holding my ticket and then he gets caught while he's doing a backflip. So very, very excited to watch this one. What do you got on this one?
I'm actually going with Michel. Just to Nico Price getting a draw against Cowboy doesn't look real good. Yes, Michel has a loss against Diego, but I mean, if you saw that fight, you know how or why that happened. Diego started that whole bullshit "I can't fight" trend. All of a sudden,
Oh God, I try not to think about it, dude. When the ref is like when he's like, "Can you continue?" Well, would it be a disqualification? He's like, "Well, I can't continue then." I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like, what the fuck, you know? So anyway, so you'd be on a 3-fight win streak right now if it weren't for that. Versus Nico Price, yes, he is exciting. But he's been shown to not be able to win against, when it counts. And yeah, he could have made Cowboy Cerrone the biggest name on his resume as of yet, but he didn't. Came to a draw. That was pretty weak. So I'm gonna have to go with Pereira. Until that train derails, I think he should be able to get past Nico Price. Nico Price, despite his ranking being above him, I don't think his skill set nor his experience is above him. And so, I'm just going. Yeah, I was really disappointed. I mean, some of his biggest wins are against James Vick. I mean, come on, Buster Bluth, the Buster Bluth of the lightweight or welterweight division, whatever division Vic was there. Not really impressed with that. So I'll take Pereira by decision, possibly, maybe a submission, or possibly a TKO. I wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, I'm not giving Nico Price any respect here.
Our next matchup at welterweight, we've got a bout between Max Payne Griffin and Carlos, the natural born killer, Condit. Currently, the odds we have Max Griffin minus 185, the comeback on Condit plus 150. And I, for whatever reason, plus 150 seems to be the price tag on Carlos Condit for the last few fights, if I recall correctly. He was around plus 150, plus 100 against Court McGee. And I think he might have been the favorite against Matt Brown, now that I recall. But that number sticks out on Carlos Condit. Maybe that's an omen. Interesting fight. These two guys they're very evenly matched. Carlos Condit has just a slight height advantage, I believe about 2-inch height advantage. And frankly, they're two older guys, 37 years old for Condit, 35 years old for Max Payne Griffin. Both of these guys on a 2-fight winning streak. I will say, though, Max Griffin is on a better streak right now. He destroyed Ramiz Brahima's ear, which led to the TKO, and he knocked out Song Kenan. I picked Kenan to win that one, and he proved me wrong, man. Max Griffin knocked him out cold. I was like, holy crap, which really put the fear of God into me after, like, oh, Max Griffin's not playing around. I don't know what improvements he's been doing, but he's looking really good if he can knock out cold Song Kenan. But just to be 100%, most of you guys, if you've been listening for a while, I am like one of the biggest Carlos Condit fans ever. So much so that my admiration for the guy will make me pick him every single time, put money on him every single time, even though if it doesn't make any sense. So because of that, because I'm leaning Condit, and frankly, I'm going to quote unquote officially pick Carlos Condit to win because I'd be a bitch if I didn't. I think he's going to win this one. Max Griffin, overall, I think he's the better fighter right now. I think he has the better possibility to win. Carlos is getting old, man. He's not the same fighter. But again, like I'm going a biased pick. This guy, I've been watching him for a long time. I even do an impression of him. It is what it is, man. I really like Carlos Condit. He's probably my favorite fighter. But frankly, I think Max Griffin, there's a lot of plus on Max Griffin. He's slightly younger. He is on a really good knockout streak. I don't think he'll knock out Carlos Condit. If anything, Carlos should knock out Max Griffin. But again, it really depends on what kind of fight they want to have. If Max Griffin wants a win, he has to wrestle, because I love Carlos, but he cannot wrestle worth a shit. He cannot stuff a takedown. As of late, he's looking a lot better when it comes to the takedowns and the takedown defense. Like he looked really good against Matt Brown, but that's Matt Brown. But yeah, like I understand why Max Griffin is the favorite. And yeah, I'm going with a biased pick. As always, I got to go with Carlos Condit. And then maybe there'll be a day where I don't pick him, but I got to go with Condit. I will actually put some money down on him because I always do. And as of late, he's not really let me down. We know where he is. He's not going to be at the top of the division anymore, but he still has, I think, enough in the gas tank to beat guys like Max Griffin. Although my brain's telling me Max Griffin, my stupid ass heart is going Carlos Condit. So I got Condit to win second round knockout viciously. Gonna knock him out cold. Fucking pool of blood. Probably both of their blood, but pool of blood. Carlos Condit's going to be standing. Max Griffin's going to be drowning in that blood.
Yeah, I'd say this is very close fight. But I would say this is another instance where I think experience comes into play, just because I don't think Max Griffin is a world beater. I don't think he'll ever fight for the title at any weight class. But I think Carlos has enough experience, having gone toe-to-toe with the best. I am not including GSP in that conversation. Not the best. So I'd say I'm giving the edge here to Carlos just based on his experience. I don't think Max Griffin, and I say that because I don't think Max Griffin is going to bring anything to the table that Carlos Condit has, ever seen previously. His last two fights against Matt Brown and Court McGee weren't spectacular, but he won. He pulled it out, I think, which was great. And I think he's going to continue that momentum into this fight. And I think he's going to edge out Max Griffin. I think it's either going to be a split decision or a very close decision for Carlos. Yeah, I think Max is going to have to work overtime to get this decision, but I believe also that the crowd is going to be on Condit's side, just because he is a crowd and UFC fan favorite. So I'm also going with Condit. He's going to naturally born kill Max Griffin for at least two of those rounds.
I did not expect you to go that route, but cool. You know what's funny? I have his rookie card, like from the old Topps rookie cards, the signature cards, and I think his contender card. They're both signed. So I put him out every time he fights, like a fucking weirdo. And I put like a little bit of a shrine. I put I put some of his coffee there, like, Toma, drink, Carlos, drink, win. And so far he's won. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, there you go. Don't stop.
I won't. Fuck. Plus 150 on the boy, Carlos. So I'll give it a shot.
As well.
Yeah. And before we break down the main card, I'd like to ask you guys, please like, share, subscribe. Go follow us on Instagram, Twitter. I'm not like the biggest fan of Twitter, but anything to help us move along, that'd be nice. Leave a comment. We love the comments, especially for a card like this. This one's hard, man. I really want to know people's opinions. And yeah, look, keep doing what you're doing. Like the video. We appreciate it 100%. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, big news. I became an official judge for, I'm assuming just my state, but who the hell knows? They're not really filling me in. They're not that great at explaining the process. So I might be registered with the whole country, but you can actually see my name in Kevin McDonald's website. So yeah, pretty cool news. I should be doing assignments in the next maybe few months. So I'll keep guys posted up on that. So follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. But to begin the main card, we've got a very short notice fight between Sugar Sean O'Malley and Chris Moutinho. Really not much to say about this one. Chris Moutinho is coming in very short notice after, oh my God, who was it that pulled out? Louis Smolka pulled out. Very, very unfortunate because now we've got this newcomer coming into the UFC with a record of 9-4. And he's fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley. Not much other than to say O'Malley by finish, more than likely. If you want to get really like froggy, round number 1, maybe even put a little bit of money everywhere. But my official pick will be round number 1 knockout for O'Malley because, you know, I'm low-key rooting for Chris to win this one, not because I dislike Sean. It's just he's being put in a disrespectful position, right? Like a lot of people are disrespecting this guy, man. He had the balls to come in, and I understand the hate, not necessarily the hate on him, but the overall narrative of like, hey, Sugar should have fought someone already in the UFC. I think Ricky Simone was one of the names. Kelleher was one of the names. There was one more that I can't remember that offered to fight. Oh, who was it? Oh, Dvalishvili. Yeah, he offered. I mean, to be fair, those are pretty hard matchups for Sean. So, not taking them is smart, but, it gives us the opportunity as people on the internet to call him a pussy. So it is what it is. It's a win-win. But there was one more. I think even Tim Elliott's like, I'll fight him at 135, which is, it's cool. Like everyone wants that Sugar Sean rub. But I will say the good thing is that Chris is in the UFC. So it gave a young guy an opportunity to come into the UFC with very, very unfortunate circumstances. He's going to get his ass beat. But we'll see how this turns out. Maybe this Chris Moutinho is just a world beater now after training so goddamn long. I think he fought some guy. He actually got knocked out by Johnny Cupcakes Campbell. And that's the only real name that I recognize on his record, even though it's a loss. But frankly, Johnny Campbell, he recently fought in Bellator and he knocked out, or actually he dropped Henry Corrales and then he choked him out. So he's not a horrible fighter despite his record. He's a swanging and banging dude. So got to respect my boy Johnny Cupcakes. So we'll see how this turns out, but it should be pretty cut and dry. O'Malley, he's looked really good after that Marlon Vera ass whooping. He looked really good against Thomas Almeida. Say what you want about Almeida, he's still a really top level fighter. But O'Malley just whipped his ass. He was too fast, too good. So, yeah, we'll see how this turns out. But official pick, Sean O'Malley, first round knockout. Hopefully the line isn't going to be crazy. Currently no odds on it because it's so short notice, but more than likely super stupid, ridiculous odds for O'Malley. So whatever you can do to get that prop down, I would go for it. But, yeah, probably going around number 1 knockout, O'Malley.
There's something I need to get off my chest, and that's I had this weird nightmare last week. After we spoke about the card, I thought, wait, is there a card that I'm missing? Since UFC 264 was 2 weeks away at that point, I thought, wait, next week's card. I was like, and then I double checked, right? I doubted myself for a second. I was like, yeah, I guess. Oh, we're not missing a card. It's just a 2 week. 2 week, 2 week break between the Cyril Gane and Volkov card and UFC 264, right?
Mm.
So we had a break for 1 week. But then that night, I had a nightmare that we completely didn't record that week, and we actually did miss a card. And funny, in the dream, it was Cyril Gane versus one of those pictures where it's just a black, a white background and a black silhouette of a fighter, right? I was like, oh man, we missed this card, right? We totally missed recording a podcast for this card. but that was before the Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis fight was. I was like, oh man, did I dream that into reality or something?
There you go. Probably it's your fault. It's your fault that Ngannou didn't take the fight.
Yeah, I was like, that's weird, man, because I was freaking out about it all morning. I was like, man, did we miss? And then when I wake up in the mornings, I was like, wait, did we really miss? I still have to look over, all the UFC fight cards to kind of calm myself down. Like, oh man, okay, I guess we didn't miss recording a podcast that week. Pretty freaky.
So
anyway.
So your pick is O'Malley, is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. I thought that story might fill in the time. Just for I have really nothing to say other than I'll also take O'Malley by TKO or KO in the first round. But then again, as you mentioned, this other guy. Sorry, I don't know his name. I clicked away from it. Chris is definitely getting disrespected. They brought in a punching bag to make O'Malley look good, because yes, they could have put in the Vashvili. Try saying that while spinning around 20 times. It's gonna, I'm getting sick just thinking about that. He could have picked any number of UFC contenders, but yeah, that was kind of a pussy move on his end as well. He's like, yeah, just give me somebody from, so I can look good for another fight until, they bring in somebody who can grapple or leg kick really hard and make him look like a bigger pussy. It's going to be 13-2, 14-2, whatever.
You mean 14-0? He's undefeated, brother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I'm, this is something to add. This is probably something you're going to want to add to your parlay, but the odds are going to be ridiculous. They're probably going to be O'Malley by it's going to be like a 700, minus 700 or more favorite or something. So they're not going to want to take that big of a loss, but it's still, I think it's worth adding maybe to a parlay at the very least, not straight bet.
Our next bout at bantamweight, we've got Irene Aldana versus Foxy-Yana Kunitskaya. Interesting bout. Currently, the odds are minus 150 for the Mexican fighter, Irene Aldana. The Russian fighter comes back plus 120. Interesting bout. Like automatically, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this bout, but the initial thought is Aldana decision. My concern is with this one is it's a women's bout, and Foxy Kunitskaya is actually on a pretty is on a decent win streak. She beat Caitlin Vieira, and I'm telling you, I've been saying this for a while. I might have to edit it out if I don't, but that Maheta Dick is probably giving her the aggression that she really desperately needs in the UFC, because she pulled out that Caitlin Vieira win out of her ass. She was getting controlled, and she did a ton of damage with ground and pound. I'm like, holy shit, she's been learning how to do that from the man. But Irene Aldana, really good boxing, not good enough to beat Holly Holm. Very disappointed in that fight. She got completely outclassed. But it does prove that, hey, you know what? Irene Aldana is probably never going to fight for a title, never going to get over the Holly Holm test, those types of top elite lady fighters. She has her crispy, clean boxing. The only problem is the takedown defense. Like it's okay. So this is one of these fights that, although I'm picking Aldana by decision, I can see Yana edging it out. So that's my biggest concern. Like, I'm not going to disrespect Yana and say, oh no, there's no chance that she can't win. I mean, plus 120 for a bantamweight fight, women's fight between these two. It's tempting. I will still go with Aldana. I think that break after the Holly Holm loss should have humbled her and really put her in the gym to just train harder. For Yana, she's not looked great other than, being a little bit more aggressive, but she's still the same fighter in my opinion. So I'll go with Irene Aldana to win this one. I think she just will be the better, faster lady, and then eventually maybe just piece up Yana, not horribly, but just enough to win the decision. The oohs and ahs from the crowd again will sway the judges, and I will be like, oh, 30-20, 30-27 Aldana. So I'll go 30-27 Irene Aldana to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably a fight to stay away from. I think, if I have to pick a side, I'll pick Aldana, but I would stay away from sides. I would say this fight is going the distance. I don't think they can finish. They're going to finish each other either by submission or by, punches, either on the feet or on the ground. So I think this is a coin flip of a fight, to be honest. So here I'd probably just take the over, that this fight is going to go for 3 rounds. Not going to be the most exciting fight. I don't know why. I don't know. I guess maybe they're just giving people a chance to go to the bathroom or something during the main card. I'm guessing that's why they stuck this particular fight on the main card. But other than that, yeah, I don't see why this fight would be on the main card.
Our next bout at heavyweight, we've got a fight between Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa and the Prince of War, Greg Hardy. Currently, the odds have it minus 145 for Tuivasa, Greg Hardy plus 115. Interesting bout. I've been back and forth with this one. Someone brought out to my attention on Twitter, I think Anaconda Bets put it out there that before you think about betting Greg Hardy, just remember that his lungs suck because of that whole puffer situation. But the thing about this one, to be honest, I don't want to spend a whole ton of time on this one. It's a heavyweight fight. Anything can happen. Anybody can get knocked out. It's just that Tai Tuivasa, putting money down on Tai Tuivasa is just not for me. It's like he had his run, and then he ran into Junior Dos Santos, made a mistake, got knocked out with punches. Well, not necessarily. It was a TKO. He didn't get knocked out. Lost to Blagoy. Lost to Sergey Spivak, which at this point, I think Sergey would beat them both in the same night. He knocked out a retiring Stefan Struve, and then he knocked out Bumsucker, Harry Hunsucker. And for Greg Hardy, the one thing I'll say about Greg Hardy, and I know people love to hate Greg Hardy for this, for what happened back in the day with his women hating fists. He was one of the little rascals because he took that shit personally. He's like, I'll never love him. Oh God. But he has fought the better competition. And he fought Alexander Volkov to a damn decision a year and a half ago, man. That means something. That's why I always think like, man, plus 115 on Greg Hardy. That's why I was leaning Hardy. I'm like, man, he is the bigger guy, 6'5" compared to 6'2". He is the guy with the longer reach, 80.5 inches, 75 inch for Tai Tuivasa. Tai is very one-dimensional, right? He's just a puncher. Hardly ever see him throw kicks. His wrestling has improved. I think he's been training at AKA for a bit. I know Daniel Cormier mentioned that, but realistically, it's going to be a stand-up war between these two guys. And it's really up to Hardy how that happens. If he's going to dictate the pace, he's the better athlete, shitty lungs and all. I probably will stay away from this one as well. Again, these fights, in my opinion, are really close because they can go either way. The odds themselves are not the best indicators because I think Greg Hardy should be the favorite, but I understand why Tai is. I'll go with Greg. I know it's a dumbass pick, but I'm going to go with Greg Hardy. I think, frankly, he has fought the way better competition between the two. He went to a decision with Volkov, man. He was still very young. He has that raw potential, even though he did get TKO'd by Marcin Tybura after he gassed out. We'll see if he's made the right adjustments, man. I'm not 100% sold that he does have a horrible gas tank. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see, man. If he can pace himself and if he can do a very cerebral game plan, I can see him edging the decision. Bam Bam is tough. I don't see him getting knocked out, but we'll see. I don't see Bam Bam knocking out Greg Hardy either. I think that knockout loss from Tybura was more so because he was just so damn exhausted, and there's a huge heavyweight on top of you raining down hammer fists. So I'm going to go with Greg Hardy. As stupid as that is, man, I'm going with Hardy to win this one by a decision.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this fight is a coin flip. Neither of these guys has, I wouldn't be confident putting down any money on either of these guys. This is, just as bad as the previous fight, I would say, in terms of, these guys aren't exactly, neither of these guys is ever fighting for the title. I mean, Bam Bam's a crowd favorite because he drinks beer from a shoe. shoes, other people's shoes and whatnot, which is fine. He's not exactly, I don't think he's Mark Hunt's protege in any form whatsoever. He hasn't really, I don't think he's taken the sport all that seriously because he's in horrible shape. He's still in horrible shape. I think if he got his act together, he'd probably make a decent run. But, he just, I don't know, man. Greg Hardy, on the other hand, I think he has more potential. He's taking a little bit more seriously, but he definitely has a lot of work to do as well. I don't think I could take either side, to be honest. It's a coin flip to me. Odds are, I think, what they should be, just because Bam Bam has been in the UFC a little bit longer. But yeah, I would stay away from this one, to be honest. If I had to make a pick, I would say Bam Bam, just due to his overall experience. But as you mentioned, in his last few fights, Greg Hardy has fought the better competition. But I think overall, I'd say in the last, 3-4 years that Bam Bam's been in the UFC, he has fought, some fairly decent, okay guys, I guess.
Personally, I thought he lost to Arlovsky. I think he got lucky on that one. And that was his last win before Junior. But it is what it is. It's a win on his record, but it is what it is.
It's tough, man. It's going to be, I would say just sit back and enjoy this one. Don't worry about who's going to win, because whoever wins, it's really a loss, because neither of these guys is all that very good, and we'll never fight for the title, but we'll get to see him scrap. So, enjoy it for what it is.
Our next bout, the co-main event of the evening at welterweight, Gilbert Trevino Burns versus Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson. The odds are currently -144. Thompson come back on Mr. Burns, +115. Man, this one's fun because they're two top welterweights currently. Number 4 is Thompson, number 5 Burns. Thompson has been wanting that title shot against Usman because he thinks he's got the stuff, the juice, if you will, to beat Juiceman. And Burns, we saw what happened in his last fight, man. It really sucks, man, to see what happened to Gilbert Burns. I thought he was going to win that fight, but we saw that, frankly, as much as I'm not a big fan of Usman, we saw his level up completely. God damn, Usman is the deserved champion. But getting knocked out by a jab ain't a good look, brother. And he should be the rightful underdog, +115. He is a live dog, in my opinion. But it's a 3-round fight. And my concern is with Gilbert Burns. I know there's been talks hey, we got something special for Wonder Boy. Sanford MMA, they can definitely come up with a good game plan to beat Thompson. The thing is that the last person that Thompson fought was a Sanford MMA guy in Jeff Neal. And Jeff Neal really had nothing for Thompson. And my thought process has always been 38 years old. Wonder Boy is slowing down, and Wonder Boy, if you attack his legs, and Wonder Boy, if you do this to him, but Wonder Boy doesn't let you do that. His movement is so damn good. His takedown defense is getting improved because of that training with Weidman. Yeah, man, he's really tough to beat, and he's a really tough riddle, even at 38 years old. He will have the reach advantage, the height advantage, man, the speed advantage, the power advantage. I don't think so, but that doesn't matter. He can still knock out almost anyone in that division with his technique. And that's what is so special about Wonder Boy. His technique is so flawless that a normal light, if we're playing a video game with Stephen Thompson, a light kick can still knock you out because of how he throws it and how sneaky he is with it. Gilbert Burns, on the other hand, he's all power. He's brute force. He'll go after you. His takedowns are pretty solid at welterweight. His jiu-jitsu, of course, is fantastic. But if he can't get to Stephen Thompson, it's going to be a really sucky night for Gilbert. And I like Gilbert. I like betting him as an underdog because he does pull it off. His last few fights, he's pulled it off as an underdog, except for, of course, against Usman, the champion, but there's no shame in that. But for me, the play has to be Wonder Boy. even at 38, man, it's going to suck that in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's minds, Wonder Boy is still the same fighter that fought Jeff Neal, but maybe on this day is the day that his knees just don't work the same and his footwork is just not as crispy and his feet hurt, or I don't know, who the hell knows. And then if Gilbert can get a hold of Wonder Boy, I think he can do some damage, especially if he throws some leg kicks and if he catches up against the cage and maybe lands something and you bum rushes him. I think he has to bum rush Stephen Thompson, but in a very smart way that he does not get clipped or jabbed, because we saw his deficiency to the jab. He just could not defend against that Usman jab. But I'm gonna go with Thompson to win this one. It's a 3-round fight, so I'm gonna go ahead and say a decision. So official pick, Wonder Boy by decision. I don't think Gilbert's gonna have really the footwork, the speed, or even the technique to even get a hold of Thompson, but we'll see what happens. But Thompson plus 140 by decision.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. Gilbert Burns is overrated, overhyped. His name should be Gilbert, quote unquote, Mr. Burns, because that's how he looked against Juice Man. If you look at his record, he beat Gunnar Nelson by decision, which was okay. He beat depleted Damian Maia, and he decisioned Tyron Woodley. Whoa, whoop-de-doo. I think Gilbert Burns is, one of those overhyped fighters. I don't think he has what it takes to beat top level competition. I think Wonder Boy is still pretty top level. And I think the way I see this fight going is I see this fight going like Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort, or like Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans. I see Gilbert Burns getting knocked out, getting too overzealous. I think Gilbert drank his own Kool-Aid against Usman, and I think he's still like, I should have won that fight, sort of thing. Yeah, so Burns is not everything that he nor the UFC can throw all these highlights, but he hasn't really beaten any top level guys, nor will he, I don't think. I'm going to take Wonder Boy here. I wouldn't put a KO past him, to be honest. But I will take him by decision, but it wouldn't hurt to sprinkle a little bit, Wonder Boy by TKO.
In our main event, the rematch, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3. Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus the notorious Conor McGregor. Holy shit, it's happening again. Currently, the odds are dead even, -110, -110 for both guys. And this one is fascinating because it's the third fight. Usually how these fights go is that the guy who won the last fight is going to win the third fight. The trilogy happened with Stipe and Cormier. It happened with Cat.
It happened with Kane and JDS.
Yes. So is this one of those situations where Conor's the Kane Conor's the JDS and then Dustin Poirier is his Kane, the last guess? So here's the thing. Everything is leaning on the side of Dustin Poirier. We've seen Conor's weakness now, right? People like to say it's the cardio. I don't really think it's the cardio. It is the leg kicks. So there's a lot of shit to break down on this fight. And we normally don't discuss these fights ahead of time. We just kind of go balls to the walls in the recording. But we actually discuss this just out of like, hey, we should record. And you're like, oh yeah, it's next week. I'm like, oh, you're right. Hey, this is a good fight. I'm like, yeah, Conor. So we discussed this one a little bit, and I came up with a couple of conclusions that are really going to put a wrench in my predictions, because my initial bet would be, hey, let's go with Dustin Poirier, leg kicks, takedowns. Conor's in a certain point in his life where I don't think he doesn't need to fight. I don't think he needs to fight. He absolutely does not. He's fucking rich. He doesn't need shit anymore. No longer needs this, but he is Conor McGregor. So that means something still, right? If any guy is going to break that one curse of the guy who loses the second fight, loses the third fight, it would be Conor. Because despite anything against this guy, right? You can say a lot of things about him. He's a cokehead, this and that. He doesn't have the heart of a fighter. Whatever the hell you want to pick that's against Conor McGregor, he is a guy that understands that, like, hey, I need to improve, and that's one thing I do respect about Conor the most is his ability to analyze his mistakes and improve on that. Now, the second fight, I should say, the first fight at lightweight between these two, Conor absolutely, positively did not respect Dustin whatsoever, because we saw, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, very heavy on that lead leg. And we saw what happened, got chopped down. And yeah, it led to the eventual TKO. Now, Conor McGregor was doing really well on the feet. It's just that, again, he did not respect Dustin. And on top of that, he was very buddy-buddy with Dustin, despite the fact he wasn't respecting him in the cage. I think he tried to be the nice guy, Conor. And then, what I would say about this one is that if you are leaning towards Conor with this bout, wait until like a press conference to see how Dustin reacts, because as we saw in the first fight, Dustin really hated Conor so much so that his emotions got the better of him, and Dustin is a very emotional fighter. If you piss him off, he will fight pissed off and he gets knocked out. We saw it with Michael Johnson knocked him out clean, and that was like, oh shit, I was a lightweight Dustin Poirier, and although at lightweight his chin is vastly improved, his boxing's really good, I think he's just the overall complete fighter at lightweight. That doesn't mean Conor can't knock him out, even though the momentum is swinging towards Dustin. If Conor starts talking mad shit, pisses off Dustin in those press conferences during the weigh-ins, and we see a very emotionally corrupted Dustin Poirier, that's really going to play in the favor of Conor. On top of that, again, Conor's a guy that will adjust his style to the point that he will definitely find counters to his weaknesses, right? His fight with Nate Diaz, the first fight, we saw what happened. He blew his wad, did not respect him, got clipped, got hurt. He went for the takedown, got submitted. Second fight, a little bit more reserved, picked his punches a lot more clean and crisp, and he ended up getting that majority decision. Despite of what people say, he won that fight. He really showed improvements also in his cardio. He was fading in the third. I think he came back in the fourth and fifth and looked better. Dustin, really can't hate on the guy too much. I know our last prediction for the second fight, I was like, he has no chance, this and that, but he is a vastly improved fighter. But I think his downfall really is if he gets too comfortable in there and if he allows Conor to really get in his head. And I know that shouldn't have a whole ton to play in this fight, but it's Conor McGregor, and he is one of the best at that. And if he does that in this fight, I think we have a different fight in our hands where Conor is the play. So we'll see. My pick, it's hard to say because my head is saying Dustin should win it because logically he should win this fight. But I'm going to go with Conor because I'm a stupid idiot and I'm expecting him to be an asshole during the weigh-ins, during the press conferences, piss off Dustin. Although Dustin is more mature now, I still think Conor can get under his skin to the point that he will make a mistake. I think Conor will not be so focused on boxing and be heavy on that lead leg. And I think he's going to catch Dustin and break that curse of the fighter losing the second fight, losing the third, and he's going to win the trilogy. Again, I think Dustin at this time is the better fighter. I think everything points to Dustin to win. Frankly, if none of that happens and we see a very calm and collected Dustin, he is the play because I think he is the overall better fighter. But my play is specifically because I know Conor's going to be a fucking asshole and Dustin's going to get pissed. Just mention one thing about her tits, about his wife's tits and the charity, and then just say shit like, oh, you were building a gym just to like blah, blah, blah. And then hopefully, oh, we forgot about the Colby Covington play. If he releases that video of him knocking down that sparring partner and all this social media backlash happens, oh fuck, man, Conor McGregor's to play. We'll see what happens, man. I know it's stupid to say that social media and shit talk's going to play a big part, but I think it will. I'm taking up a shit ton of time, man. I'm like really excited. There's a lot of little factors to this, but I will go with Conor because I'm an idiot and I am picking him based on his shit talk. So what do you have on this one?
Oh, that was a lot.
It is.
I lost my train of thought, but well, let me start with I'm going with Dustin on this one. I'm going with Dustin because I believe he is more mature. I believe he doesn't let shit get to him as much. I believe he is currently the better fighter. I believe he is tougher than McGregor. I believe he can take more punches, harder punches, more volume than McGregor. I think at this point, he's also hungrier than McGregor. McGregor can say he's still hungry in this and that, but he's saying that, living in his mansion. The last time around, he was actually training in Portugal in some mansion Airbnb that he rented, or it could be his place. I don't know. But he was training with, he has his quote unquote team, which are a bunch of guys taking time of how he runs or his nutritionists or whatnot. That's not old school McGregor. So unless old school McGregor went to train at SBG Ireland with, what basically is his rock, his stone that he sharpened himself with all those years, and that's the real GOAT, Artem Lobov. Unless he's been sparring with Artem, training with Artem, I don't know if he is or not. I doubt he is. I think he's above that or something, or I don't know what his deal is. I don't believe he may have done a little bit more push-ups, so his chest maybe puffs out a little bit more, so when he walks and he does the McMahon walk, it'll look a little bit whatever. So I think at this point, Dustin is, at least from everything I'm seeing, is the right side. I mean, to anybody else, it would seem like, yeah, it's 50-50, but I don't see it that way. I see it's more like 80-20, meaning Conor has a 20% chance to win this fight. Meanwhile, I think Dustin has more of an 80% chance to win. And that is, to your point, if he does get distracted by that, which, by Conor's shit talk, he might. But this isn't, this is not the same Conor that we're dealing with. He doesn't have the same level of shit talk that he did years ago with, where he got under Aldo's skin and all those guys. Even shit, I think he lost it a little bit after Diaz, because he was talking shit to Diaz, but then Diaz was coming back with, yeah, I know that, motherfucker. And he's like, what? And I guess that shook up Conor. He's like, what did he say? Somebody get a damn translator out here.
I miss that Conor too.
Yeah.
Looking like
he's that good.
Nate can only count to 5. Shit, dude. Yeah. I miss fucking regular old Conor.
Yeah. So I think his insults took a downturn, took a turn for the worst against Diaz, because they didn't have any effect on them. Because Diaz would just come back with some peanut butter tongue, peanut butter mouth reply. And then he'd get insulted by the fact that he didn't understand what the hell he was getting insulted with. So that alone is pretty insulting, in my opinion. So the odds here are actually pretty good, -110. The other thing I think is, if anything, I think Dustin has gotten in Conor's head, because he did beat him unexpectedly with the leg kicks. And that, caused the Conor taking a nap meme, or whatever, you want to call that, where he's kind of taking a nap in the ring and he gets up, but not really. And he also knows that his legs are vulnerable now. So I think he might have seen some of these commentaries and he's like, yeah, I guess I should go back to, karate style McGregor and try his hand at that. But I don't think he can flip the switch. I don't think he can go back to 2014, 2015, when he was in his prime, and he was in that stance. He can try it, but I don't think it's going to work against Poirier. Poirier has shown in his last few fights, despite his loss to Khabib, that he can take a punch, man. He can take it as good as he gives. And I think his toughness, his skill, his maturity is what's going to take Dustin. Is what is going to give Dustin another highlight finish. And it kind of sucks that he's not going to get the same type of superstardom from beating Conor McGregor that Nate Diaz did, because I think Poirier definitely deserves it. He's a deserving fighter. If anything, I think he should forego fighting for the title and challenge Nate Diaz in his next fight.
For the 165 belt.
Yeah,
that elusive 165-pound belt.
Yeah, he should just challenge Nate Diaz. He's like Nate, quit being a little bitch. Let's fight or something. And then Nate's gonna tweet something, and then I'm gonna read that tweet, and I'm gonna hear Nate's voice, slur, whatever, ongoing, no punctuation, 300 character, whatever goes out. In response, that makes no sense. I have to ask you what the hell that meant. So I think Dustin should, after this fight, he should go for that next big paycheck, which is Nate Diaz. Fight Nate at welterweight, which is what he wants, and then fight for the title. Just because the Bronx isn't going anywhere, I don't think. I don't believe what's his name, Gaethje, can beat him. I think the Bronx's ground game is probably going to negate Gaethje's strength, punches or whatever. I think they should match up the Bronx and Gaethje, and then the winner of this should fight Nate Diaz and then go on and fight for the title.
I'd gotta disagree. I say they should give Nate Diaz an immediate shot at DuBronx, so that way Diaz finally gets that belt. That'd be fun. But then again, that's just me being stupid as shit. But
well, I was actually hoping they would give Diaz an immediate shot at Tony.
Oh,
Ferguson.
Really? Well, I mean, yeah. No one needs an immediate shot at Tony. No one's like, I want to fight Tony. Like, that would be a great fight.
No, they should immediately book that for September, October or something.
Oh yeah, that can main event. That'll be shit. I'd pay for that.
Oh, yeah.
Although I am already paying for pay-per-views.
But yeah, of course we all are. Yes. Everybody is. That's why they're that's why. Anyway, that would be a good fight to make. I think Tony versus Nate. That's a fight that should have been done a while back, but it wasn't. And then the fight. I think the winner of this should then fight Nate, because I think Nate would beat Tony at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago would be a different story, but as of now, I think Nate will, do what Nate does in a 5-round fight and beat Tony, unfortunately. So those are my future matchups. That's my prediction for this fight. I think Poirier is going to take it. Whether he knocks him out again, I think it's going to be tougher this time around. I think they're going to go to decision. But I don't know. Conor might get overzealous. He might jump the gun, and he might get knocked out again. But knocked out a little bit differently. I think this fight, if Conor gets too aggressive, it might be a rehash of Poirier versus Hooker. When they were going toe to toe, but then Poirier, he just kept pouring it on, and Hooker unfortunately fell. Sucks for him, but I think McGregor, whether he wins or loses this fight, he's already won at life. That ginger son of a bitch has more money than I'll ever see. So if he loses, am I going to cry a river? Not really, because he's going to go home and cry into his, he's still married, right? I think, or still
fiance, yeah,
or whatever. Even if he doesn't go home, he's still going to go after the fight, go into crying to some, giant knockers or something. And he's gonna drown his sorrows on his bed made of $100 bills and champagne or whatever he does. You know what? I think he does actually have a pot of gold somewhere. I'm pretty sure he goes home. He has like one of those big, studies with the high bookshelves and the fireplace, and then he presses like one of the bricks in the fireplace, and then a little thing, a little brick opens up, and there's a little pot of gold there that he just kind of sits and counts over and over again by the fireplace. Anyway, that's just me assuming, but I think my assumption hits it right on the mark.
Well, those have been our picks for UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor 3. Please like, share, subscribe the video, whatever you can. We'd appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. That's been our picks. Johnny and Jose, Tiger Bomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.